And we are live. Nipples for men. You know, I had to say it. Sometimes I feel like being like that character in Midnight Express. Did you ever watch that, Vance? That Oliver Stone movie with the Turkish prison? The scene where he puts his nipple, the guy puts his nipple up to the glass. Ace Ventura kind of mocked it. Well, maybe I'm showing my age. Anybody in the audience, let me know if you remember that. But yes, this is a world of nipples for men. And Birdie Num Num in those warm leatherettes. Hey, Karen, I see you in the chat. You have seen it. Good. So you know that scene. Powerful movie. But welcome everybody to AB Live episode, I think it's 54. I don't know. And glad to see everybody starting to show up in the chat room. Very excited tonight. And you may be wondering why it's just Vance and I. Micah Dank will be joining us, but he's having a few issues, so he's going to jump in as soon as you can, and we'll get this heretical party started. So, Vance, how are you doing tonight here in the desert of the real?
Oh, I'm fine. Just wiping the Excel spreadsheet off my face.
The Heilig part of you, huh?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, here we will be doing a lot of Stargates and Starry Nights and all that good stuff. And even I was thinking, for those of you who are not part of the Finding Hermes program, I do presentations on Gnostic rituals, exclusive ones. And I'm sure Vance would agree, we're finding out that the Gnostics were obsessed with Stargates and traveling the stars. Even last night we did the secrets of the Nessenes, the serpent Gnostics, and how very much in the mystery school tradition, they travel down after an altered state of consciousness. They travel down to Hades, whether it may have been astral or mental, and then they catapult up through the constellation of Taurus, through Venus, into that ineffable realm, into the pleroma, into the ground of being. So that's one thing we've shown here on Aeon Byte more and more, that these ancient religions were very much influenced by the stars. And, adding to what is happening, I want to say, hey, Micah, how are you?
How's it going? I'm sorry, I was having computer issues. I couldn't figure StreamYard out.
We understand. I've been having tech issues with everything. Printer breaking down, microwave breaking down. You're here. You're outside. I'm envious because that means you're smoking. So rock on.
Yep.
I've got mine.
Yep.
I've got mine. So awesome. So for the audience, you know the drill. If you have questions when we get to that section, please type them in all caps or add question marks, and Vance and I will get to them as soon as we can. And again, as I was saying, the star portals, or the stars, are scholars are finding out are more and more important. If those of you who watched in the last show with David Brackey, even he has said, somebody who studied Apocrypha and Gnosticism for years, now, because of the Gospel of Judah, he's so convinced that the ancient Jews were just soaked in astrotheology, and it was imperative because that gospel is very influenced by, again, starry portals. And of course, you don't have to be an expert to see something like the Book of Revelation is fully influenced by the stars, by the precession of the equinoxes, by all that. And of course, the Book of Enoch is as well. And those are two books that have really captured the imagination of both the Orthodox and the heterodox throughout history. Ook smile. What jewel flavor? Well, I forget. It was it was freaking Trump banned the jewel flavor, so now you can only get menthol or regular. But I used to like to do the mango jewels and shit like that. But now I just do menthol. So awesome. So Micah, how you been?
I'm good, man. I'm very good. I've been doing a lot of podcasts recently, and I've been just gearing up. My next book comes out. Well, I have to have it turned in August 15th because my publisher has to put it together, and it's going out September 15th.
Yeah. Oh, it's going out. Wow, that's a quick turnaround. And what's the name of the book?
It's The Final Type. Into the Rabbit Hole, The Final Type.
And so the part of your series.
Yes.
That basically you use your ideas. Awesome. Well, we'll get started with the presentation in a second. I don't think we'll worry about some house cleaning later on or as we go through the interview. But I wanted to mention again, talking about the importance of the stars with the ancients, how it's become more and more imperative. I was thinking today, obviously, the news about we have these billionaires going up to the stars. And one thing I'm glad is that nobody really gives a shit except for the media. So it's nice we live in a world with those celebrity CEOs are a thing of the past and we can see right through their asses. But why are they going to the stars? And this is my little theory or rant or whatever you want to call it. If we had John Michael Greer in his book, The King in Orange, and he talks about Oswald Spengler and his ideas on cultures. And Spengler said that our culture is what you call the Faustian culture, started around 1000 AD. And this is the culture of the colonizer. This is the culture that decided it would make a deal with the devil to get all this material goods and power and all that. It would do anything it wanted to get what it needed for its own enlightenment, both mental, material, and even spiritual. And we are living at the end of this Faustian culture. As we can see, we are in decline because these cultures just start to die off. The ideas don't work. They just rot from within, regardless of the culture. But one of the characteristics of the Faustian culture is this idea that we got to go to the stars. A lot of cultures like to look at the stars, be inspired by the stars. But in the Faustian culture, we got to go to the stars. And of course, this translates into colonialism, exploration. But again, make that deal with the devil, get all the resources, stay there, all that good stuff. So the idea of the stars is very powerful in Western culture. And that's, we can talk science fiction in the late 19th century with H.G. Wells. We can talk Kennedy and his ideas of going to space. And even now they're trying this whole idea of billionaires traveling in space. They're trying to get our Faustian nature to get excited. But as the Faustian culture is ending, as the empire is crumbling and will transfer to another culture, it's just not working as it used to be. So those are my kind of thoughts on what's going on with the billionaire guys going with their big penis rockets up into space. And in fact, somebody shared a very cool meme I had to share with the audience. I guess if you're listening to the audio, you probably won't be able to get it, but we have it on Facebook. Where is it? Let's see if this works. Let's see. Do you guys see it? What do you see?
Not yet. We saw your desktop background for a second.
Do you not see it anymore? What do
No,
you see?
there's the desktop background, but there's nothing on it. It's the other screen or something. Wrong
You don't
screen.
see anything?
I see the Milky Way.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm getting the wrong one. I might have to play with this when I can figure out what am I doing wrong. I had a really cool meme of Jeff Bezos as the demiurge. But, well, Micah, are you ready to present? I hope you have more luck with the share, or are you just doing this audio?
Oh, boy. More problems with this. Let me see here a sec. Hold on. Share.
I know last time you got it, you had better luck than I did with the screen share. All right, I see you've got something going on there.
Do we see a full screen?
Let's see. Right now,
Nothing
oh,
yet.
let me add it to stream. There you go.
There it is.
I just had to add it to the stream. Maybe that was the problem with my thing.
You see Aquarius?
Yes. For the
Yes.
audience, do you guys see that? Raise your hands if you see what you're seeing, or say something. We see it. Thank you, Eric Alexander. All right, man. Well, let's get started with this party.
All right, so I'm going to go through the 12 signs real quick and what to look for. So Aquarius is the first sign in Aquarius, which is represented by the man with the water pitcher. So whenever you hear words like son of man or boy or fountain or stream or pitcher or baptism, because this is how you baptize someone, is with a pitcher of water like this. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the sign of Aquarius. Then Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Then Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator in Astrotheology. See, in the Jewish religion, the Passover means God is passing over Egypt, okay, and giving judgment to the firstborn sons of the Egyptians, who he's going to kill as the 10th plague in order to get the Jews out of Egypt. However, in Astrotheology, the Passover literally just means that the sun passes over. Now, in Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's son. You have Easter and Passover, both in Aries. Then Taurus is the bull, and when you look in the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seeds so that you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. Then Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. And Cancer is the crab, and it's a sideways moving creature. Okay, it moves sideways just like the sun moves sideways. So what the sun does is it starts on December 25th. It rises a degree above its axis. And then the next day it rises another. And then the next day it rises another. And it keeps doing that every single day until it hits June 21st. When it hits June 21st, that's the height of the summer solstice. Okay, so the sun can't rise any further. It's the longest day of the year. Then for 3 days, it walks sideways and stays at that height, just like the crab. Then it drops a degree June 25th. It continues to drop a degree every single day until it hits December 21st, where the sun doesn't even rise on its axis anymore. The ancients used to say the sun was dead. And then the sun moves sideways for 3 days again, so God's son was dead for 3 days. Okay, and that's the pattern that the sun does every single year. And the ancients had this mapped out. But Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. And the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion or Leo or lioness or cub, they're talking about Leo. Then Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when you said that you plant in Taurus? Well, you plant in Taurus and the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So anytime you hear woman or virgin or young woman or wheat or seed or barley or corn or any type of grain for that example, they're talking about Virgo. And basically that's where you get the bread. Okay. Then Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. And the reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter. So earlier in Aries, it passes over the equator. Here, it passes under the equator. Okay, so it's judged and it's sentenced to its death. Okay, the Jewish people always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox, and because Libra is judging, judgment, judge, the judged one, judging. 8 days after the new year in the Hebrew calendar, you have something called Yom Kippur, which is the day of judgment, where the Jews fast all day and they don't eat or drink and they go to temple and they pray that God's going to keep them in the book of life for the rest of the year, or for the new year, I should say. Libra is also wine season. So anytime you hear grape or wine or vineyard or vine, or like the parable of the true vine, for example. It's a metaphor for Libra. Libra is also olive season. Okay, so basically you press the olives in Libra too. So you have Virgo the bread and Libra the wine. So that's what you have to look for in Libra. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. And when a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. Okay? So the sun is judged in Libra and is betrayed in Scorpio. And then finally in Sagittarius, this is where the rider with the bow and the arrow inflict further punishment on the sun. They shoot the sun, inflict further punishment on the sun. Now, the day of death is Sagittarius. It's December 21st. Okay? So basically, every time they're talking about a death in the Bible, they're talking about Sagittarius. Okay? So then finally, Capricorn is the goat because he likes to climb the mountain. So anytime you hear goat or kid, for example, it's because he likes to climb the mountain. The zodiac wheel starts with Capricorn at the bottom, and it starts in December 25th. It climbs a degree. Just like the goat metaphorically climbs the mountain, or literally climbs the mountain better than any other animal, the sun literally starts to climb in Capricorn. So those are the 12 signs. It should be pretty familiar to a lot of people, right?
Yeah. Good start, yeah.
I like the story. That's a cool story. Good way to remember things.
Okay, so Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. So the first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius, the sign of the man. The fourth is like a flying eagle. In astrology, the Scorpio is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. The same way that the snake was made to crawl on its belly after the deception in the Garden of Eden. However, its evolved form becomes the flying eagle, which is the highest flying form of life on Earth. Okay? So the four signs you have here are Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Okay? Those are the four fixed signs of the zodiac. When you have the zodiac wheel like this, you connect the solstices and the equinox, they make the perfect cross. That's the cross of God's son that he lives and dies on. These four signs make an X through the cross, and it's a perfect celestial alignment. So that's why they were chosen for this passage. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and the seven seals." Well, the Lion of the tribe of Judah is Leo. Okay, when Jesus is in Aquarius, he's known as the Son of Man. Mm-hmm. When he's in Pisces, he's known as the Fisherman of Men. When he's in Aries, he's known as the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. When he's in Cancer, the crab, the Egyptians used to have the crab. It wasn't a crab. It used to be the beetle. It used to be the crab. Okay, and that's why St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. Mm-hmm. Okay, then in Leo, when the sun is there, he's known as the Lion of Judah. Virgo, the woman with the wheat stalk, he's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Okay, and then in Libra, he's known as the just one. And then he's betrayed in Scorpio, he's killed in Sagittarius, and then he comes back in Capricorn. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." We just went over the four living creatures. Mm-hmm. But do you know why the Lamb has to open the first seal? Do you know why it's the Lamb, which is Aries?
No.
Because Aries starts the year. The year begins in Aries. The year doesn't begin in Aquarius. The year doesn't begin in Capricorn. The year begins in Aries. The ancients knew this. When you take Aries and you start there and you do September, October, November, December, or Sept, Oct, Nov, Dec, okay, they line up perfectly 7, 8, 9, 10 when you start the year in Aries. Okay, that's how it used to be before Julius Caesar and Caesar Augustus entered themselves into the calendar, screwing everything up. Revelation 6:2, I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Well, Well, that's the horse with the bow and the arrow. That's Sagittarius. That's obvious. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages. Well, that's Libra, that's Virgo, as I mentioned. And do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, that's Libra. So you have Virgo first and then Libra. Those are connecting signs. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon turned blood red. And the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. So you have the sun turned black like a sackcloth made of goat hair. The moon turned blood red. Figs drop from a fig tree. The goat is Capricorn, and it's black because the Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, which is known as the black planet. The Jews wear the black cube on their forehead when they pray, and it's called tefillin, and they wrap it around their hand 7 times, and then they wrap it around their fingers, and then they place it on their forehead. It's Saturn worship. And the Muslims walk around the Kaaba in Mecca. Okay? The moon turned blood red because you have Capricorn, which is the black planet. That's why it's a black sackcloth. And then its cross sign is Cancer, whose ruling planet is the moon. That's why the moon was blood red, because they're opposing signs. The first time figs are good to eat are in June or Cancer. The second time they're good to eat is from August to October, which is basically Libra. Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. Miguel, are you familiar with this passage?
Yeah, I am to an extent. Yeah.
Okay.
I know the 144. I mean, one thing people don't know is when you talk to Christian fundamentalists, is that I think it's 144 male virgins. It's not like some special Christian group that's going to get saved. So they kind of forget that passage. But go ahead, Micah.
Right. That was my point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Is that these people think that out of everybody that's ever lived, which it's been estimated, it's been about 150 billion people in all of humanity. That's what it's been estimated at. Mm-hmm. That out of all of them, only 144,000 get saved. However, are you guys familiar with the chakras?
Yes.
7 chakras, but I know there's many more chakras according to Hinduism and Theosophy. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals. The sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 equals 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144, and you times that by 1,000, you get your 144,000. What they were trying to say is when you've activated all your chakras, this is when you get to see God.
Wow. It's awesome. That is very cool. Good insight, man. And the pineal gland that's where you're able to see God as well. So many mystics said.
Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the place Peniel, Peniel, right, for he saw God face to face and his life was spared. Well, Peniel just becomes pineal. So they knew this. If you know about the ancient Egyptians too, the Eye of Horus, you see all the celebrities doing this? This is just signaling the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus is the single eye. When you do a sagittal cut of the human head, and then you open it up like this, if you look in the middle of it, you see the Eye of Horus. You see the eye, which is the pineal gland, and then you see the eyebrow ridge right here. It's the corpus callosum of the brain.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah. As Johnny Carson said, this is some wild and crazy stuff.
Revelation 9:3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth, and they were given powers like that of scorpions of the earth. Well, the power of a scorpion is to betray. Mm-hmm. That's what it does. And Scorpio is scorpion. The very next passage, the locusts looked like horses, that's Sagittarius, prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold. So now Sagittarius, the sun is in Sagittarius. So the crown of gold is a metaphor. And their faces resembled human faces. That's Aquarius and Virgo. Their hair was like woman's hair. That's Virgo. And their teeth were like lion's teeth. That's Leo. They had tails with stingers like scorpions. That's Scorpio. So in this one passage, you just see 8 mentions of the different signs. You see how obvious it is in your face?
Yeah, yeah. Once you have the decoder stuff, the astral Rosetta Stone, you're like, these guys are just kind of ticking it off, huh?
That's basically what they're doing. Yeah. Revelation 12:1. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Okay? A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun. That's a metaphor for the sun in Virgo. Now, there's 24 hours in a day. There's 12 signs. Okay? So the sun spends 2 hours in each sign every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if the sun is in Virgo, that's roughly from 4 to 6 p.m. Okay? So if it's from 4 to 6 p.m., what you have to do is you have to realize that the sun is out still, if it's 4 to 6 p.m. If the sun is out, the moon is at her feet. If the moon is up, the sun is at her feet. Make sense?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, she was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. This is another metaphor for the virgin birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky from Earth. Are you familiar with the constellation Draco?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I was just talking, there were some Gnostic groups like the Paradics who believed in going through the constellation Draco to heaven or the other dimension.
Right. Well, the constellation Draco, its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius. That's a third of the stars out of the sky. So that's all this is. There's not going to be like a pregnant woman in the sky with a dragon about to eat her at the end of days. This is all that it means. You know, this is how this is decoded. You know, Revelation 13:2. Then I saw a beast. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like a lion. There's a constellation called Camelopardalis. It could reference a camel, which is Camelos, and a leopard, which is Pardalis. The giraffe used to be called the camel leopard. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Okay. So the beast resembled this constellation Camelopardalis, but had the feet of a bear. That's Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, represented by the great bear and her cubs. Revelation 13:11. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Well, the lamb is Aries, and the dragon is Draco.
Right.
Okay? Draco starts, the tail starts in Aries. Revelation 18:13. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh, and frankincense, of wine and oil, Libra, of fine flour and wheat, Virgo, cattle, Taurus, and sheep, Aries, horses and carriages, Sagittarius, and human beings, Aquarius and Virgo, sold as slaves. Again, 8 different signs in this. That's the book of Revelation. I went through it a lot quicker than I thought I would, but that's basically it.
Well, I'm sure we got some questions before we get to the Book of Enoch. My takeaway, I just wanted to mention, you put Revelation 6:1. For the audience out there, for those interested in Gnosticism, it says a voice like thunder. And this is something Robert Price noticed because the Book of Revelation slams the Nicolaitans, who were a Gnostic sect. For those who think that the Gnostics were later, seems in the 1st century, whoever this Elder John is pissed off at these. One of the 7 churches is the Nicolaitans. And later church fathers said the Nicolaitans might have been behind the Gospel of Eve and the Gospel.
It's important to know, Miguel, it's important to know in Hebrew, too, that the word for thunder literally translates to voices. That's what they used to think when they would hear thunder. They would hear that they would be God talking. That's what they used to say.
Interesting. Yeah, and so he thinks that right after Revelation 6:1, one of the angels hides the seal. They might have been hiding the text under the perfect mind because it was so blasphemous. This God is talking about stuff. So that's an interesting point. I just wanted, again, to make it for those Gnostic-minded. And I guess for the audience, as we talked in our last interview, Micah, these things were sort of coding seasons, agriculture, and all that. So the Book of Revelation isn't some sort of it's not about the end of the world. What is the message of the Book of Revelations, do you think?
I think the Book of Revelations, it's just like every other book in the Bible. Did I do the book of did I do the Book of Matthew with you last time, the first gospel?
No. I don't think we did. Vance?
Don't recall.
Yeah, no, I don't think we did.
Okay, well, let's do that first, because I'm going to show you exactly how this code works.
All right, and then we can then let us know what they were trying to do with the Book of Revelation. The same thing they try to do in all these texts in the Bible, as you argue.
Right.
Now, I got a question before we go on to leave Revelation. I can see that they were calling out lots of astrological signs. What was the meaning, or what were they trying to accomplish by the references?
Okay, so you have to understand is that at the time that the Bible was written, we were barely out of the food chain. Okay, in fact, we weren't really, because if you think about the region that they lived in Egypt, where it all came from, and Israel, okay, when the sun would go down, all the wild animals would come out. Okay, so you needed to know when the sun was going to go down. You needed to know Taurus, the bull. You needed to know when to plant. Because if you knew when to plant, then that means that you were going to be able to harvest in Virgo and Libra in order to make the bread, in order to make the wine, in order to make the olives, the barley, all this stuff that you were going to need to store over the winter. Okay, if you didn't plant when the bull was out, if you didn't know to do that, you would starve at the end of the year. You had to know when winter was coming. And we take for granted that we have clocks, calendars, watches, smartphones, and all that stuff. They didn't have that. Okay, so what this is it's basically an encoded farmer's almanac to hide their secret information. Okay, that's what it basically is. And no book is different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and for thunder, I think thunder is Baruch in Hebrew and Barak in Arabic. So I just thought about that. I guess I'm thinking Barak, right. Of course, I'm thinking of the president in Rick and Morty, because I can't stop talking about it to Vance. Vance and I are working on our Gnostic themes in Rick and Morty, so stay tuned, audience.
Fantastic.
All right, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we do there, let me get you on the screen there, Micah, at the stream. Okay, here we go.
You guys see it now?
Yeah, we can see it. Book of Matthew.
Yeah, can you do the full the full page? Do the slideshow?
It's gonna screw my computer up if I do Alt 5. So
all right, I don't want you to do that.
All right, so basically what I've done is I've put the zodiac wheel on the left, and I've outlined it. Okay, now I picked the Book of Matthew because it's the first gospel, for no other reason. Okay, now repent of your sins, Matthew 3:2. Repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The two solstices and the two equinox, those are the points. Well, I told you that the kingdom of heaven on earth is in Leo when the sun is in its ruling, when the sun is ruling the planet. I mean, ruling the sun that it's supposed to be. The closest day to it is June 21st, which is in Cancer, which I've highlighted here. So that's where this gospel starts. Then this is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. It's the beginning of the kingdom. There's a saying in the Bible that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. The firmament are the dividing lines between signs. Now the next passage, Matthew 3:4, John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of it. Cancer being the head is why he eats wild honey. In the sign of Cancer, there's a group of stars called the beehive cluster. Okay, so the bees produce honey. This is also why the land of milk and honey is so prevalent in the Old Testament. Okay, it's the area between the Milky Way galaxy and the beehive cluster. The Milky Way galaxy centers in Sagittarius. So your land from Cancer to Sagittarius is the land of milk and honey. So I've circled his head because his mouth is in his head and his head is in Cancer. So he's eating the wild honey. A little lower on the body is the closed hair made out of camel hair, or camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So right now you have the head and the upper body so far. Moving a little lower on the body, you'll get his midsection, which is where you'd wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow, which is where you get the leather for the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo, which is where we were, to a water sign to signify the baptism. And I use the water sign loosely. Aquarius is an air sign, Pisces is the water sign, but Aquarius, because it has water in it, can be used to mention a bunch of different water things. Okay? So cross signs, as they are known, are signs of opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. Okay? So here's the Cancer Leo firmament. Here's the Capricorn Aquarius firmament. The man with the pitcher of water is Aquarius, personified by John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decrease a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, "He must increase, but I must decrease." It's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th. This one is simple. He's tempted for 40 days. So count 40 days. It takes you to September 2nd, if you do that, which is right in the middle of Virgo. Okay? The virgin with the wheat stalk. What does the devil say? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. There's another section in the Bible where Jesus feeds the masses with 2 fish, and the 2 fish are Pisces, and the loaves of bread are Virgo. Those are opposing signs. Okay? Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place in the firmament of Virgo and Libra. When you are at the firmament, it could be used on either side. This could be used to talk about bread, or it could be used to talk about what it's actually talking about now, which is law and judgment. Libra, the scales of law, who judges the sun before its descent into fall and winter. Matthew 7:9-10. If your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Once again, this being the firmament between Virgo and Libra, it switches back to Virgo. Matthew 7:15-16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, these are opposing signs. It'll always talk about the opposing sign or the neighboring sign. That's how you know this is encoded. Okay, if it was just jumping around the zodiac randomly, it could be left to interpretation, but it's always the opposing sign and the neighboring sign. Okay, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces, as he is right beside the lake or the 2 water signs. Its cross sign is the Leo Virgo firmament. As it's across from Virgo, the wheat stalks and the grains, isn't it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving back along, next is the fishing net parable. So now we go back across from Leo Virgo to its cross sign Aquarius Pisces. Then Gemini is the sign of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brother James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the firmament of Gemini Cancer. So I mentioned to you guys before that Judas is Scorpio, right?
Right.
Betrayer, yeah.
He's the betrayer. Now, Simon Peter, okay? Jesus gives him the name Peter. Do you know why?
A rock, according to tradition.
His name is Simon. Why would you name someone who's Simon Peter?
Because this church will be built upon you and some of their
Well,
propaganda.
Peter was a fisherman. Okay, so that's Pisces. Do you know what the ruling planet of Pisces is?
No.
It's Jupiter or Jew Peter.
Oh. That makes sense.
Okay. So next, you go from the Gemini Cancer to the Sagittarius Capricorn. This is December 21st. This is the day of death. And the next story is the death of John the Baptist. Okay? Ignore that. This is the cross of God's Son. So this is what happens when you connect the solstices and the equinox. This is what it looks like. Okay? Next is Libra, which is the law and wine, remember. What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, and the parable of the vineyard worker. So as you can see now, this is how it's plainly encoded. Then next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss. So we were just in Libra, now we're in Scorpio, and then we go into Sagittarius. This is where Jesus is crucified on the cross. Okay? And that's basically it. That's the book of
What an
Matthew. So you
adventure.
see how this is encoded?
Yeah, very much.
Looks
So in
that
your
way, yeah.
fiction,
We
your
can't-
books,
we
The
can't-
Rabbit Hole. I was going to say this is sort of this is like the big secret that the church will kill you over.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. If they found out. Before we get to the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim and the Watchers, Vance, do you see any questions for the audience, or are they just riveted?
I just gotta. I'll be right back, guys. Give me 2 seconds. Okay?
Sure, no problem.
Sure. Let's see. I saw one question, which I will bring up when he gets back.
Yeah. Well, while Micah's taking care of what he's taking care of.
I'm back.
Okay, that was quick.
I just had to
no
get
worries,
the
no
drink real quick.
worries. Good, yeah. We
So-
want you hydrated.
This is kind of an aside question, but Tony M wanted to know which book in the Bible actually has contemporary use the most, in your opinion.
Contemporary use?
Yeah, that's what he asked. I don't know exactly what he means. In other words, what's the
See,
most
I'm
popular
from.
one?
I don't think that the Bible is fulfilling prophecy. I think it was written back then the way it was written, and the elites and the one that really rule things tailor events now to make it seem like prophecy in order to keep people's heads spinning and busy, just calling it out and doing this and that. I don't think that there's anything prophetic about that. I mean, I can go through all the books of the Bible and show you how it's astrology. It's encoded astrology, just like I did with Matthew, just like I did with Revelation. It's all the same code that they use to break it down. I don't think it's prophetic, though.
Yeah, they may have even remembered the story when it was verbal. They could remember the story by thinking of the stars and the relationships, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like a mnemonic device, yeah.
Exactly. What do you think of that? Do you think that's possible? Have you ever heard of that?
Possibly. But I think that this was the sacred information and that the elites tried to keep from people. Because what do you do with the most sacred information? You hide it from people. That's what you do. You hide it in the Vatican vault. You hide it from people, and you hide it in plain sight is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and we also don't want to. We have to remember the ancients were not were a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So, and they had a more holistic way of viewing things. In other words, something could have multiple meanings to it at once. So, it definitely could have different levels. But that's for another story. And of course, I'm sure. Have you tackled the Old Testament? Well, we've talked about the Old Testament, but you haven't done like a blow by blow of certain books in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible.
I have.
Okay, I figured you've got it all down.
I have in the Old Testament. I'll show you one real quick.
All right.
It's a little short. It's the Book of Job. You familiar with the Book of Job?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, that one talks about astrology. Yeah, that one just straight out talks about it.
Oh, we went over this already, right?
I don't think we went over this. I don't think we did. No.
All right, let me just pull it up real quick. Can you see my background?
Yes, we can see it.
Yep. Title page we see.
Job 38:32. Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth? The Mazzaroth is the Zodiac. Okay, that's what it literally means. Okay, Mazzaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which is good luck or good fortune from the stars. So what's the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are obvious. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. Who can tip over the water jars of heavens? That's Aquarius. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger for the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Aquile or Alta Liman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. You give the horse its strength. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. Sagittarius with the bow and the arrow. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? That's Aquila, which is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally, he says, can you pull in Leviathan with the fish hook, which is the fish god Pisces? So you see how it's...
Yeah, that was a map.
Oh.
There was before we go, I saw a couple of questions that are actually pretty good. One question is, does Jesus represent the sun, as many have said? What do you think?
Yes, he's the sun god. He's the sun god. You know, he's the sun. He's the son of God, not the son of God, if that makes sense.
And the other question from, and I know it's Anam Nono Omos, in his alter ego of Astrological Foundation. Hello there, sir. Revelation mentions the number of the beast. What is the corresponding interpretation of those? He says Coptic numerals to the zodiac. What's the number of the beast?
The number of the beast is 666. Okay, which is the number of man. It's the sign of man. Okay, the number of the beast is the sign of man. Is 666. 666 is carbon based. We're 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. Okay, so we're all carbon based.
Get out of here. They knew that shit?
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think they knew about atomic theory back then.
They knew about string theory back then. Why wouldn't they know about atomic theory?
I haven't heard that they knew about string theory either.
They did. What do you think? What do you think the third Hermetic principle is? It's the principle of vibration. Open up the Quantum Hermetica and read it. Hermes or Thoth or whatever you want to call him, Trismegistus, 7,000 years ago. The principle of vibration. Everything vibrates, nothing stays stationary. They knew about this.
Well, there's all the 12 dimensions and all that stuff too, but they knew about vibrations, yeah. They knew music, right? They had psalteries and stringed instruments and so forth.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Greeks obviously talked about atoms, but yeah, interesting things to work on. All right, well, why don't we get to let's get to some Nephilim and some Watchers and all those guys.
Yeah.
Let me know when you can see this.
We can see it. Book of Enoch slide.
Guys, give me a sec. Someone's at my front door. I'll be right back.
All right. It's probably the Catholic Church. Ready to have him assassinated.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, well, they have been rebooted in these divide and conquer days and these strange cultural revolution days. But yeah, other than that, as Micah gets the door, again, thanks for everybody who showed up, those who are listening in audio. Keep supporting Aeon Bide. As mentioned, I'm leaving the old day gig. It's taking a little bit longer, but a lot of exciting things I plan on doing. One of them is voiceover. If you need voiceover help for any of your projects, or you know somebody needs an audiobook narrator or a documentary or something like that, please let me know. And I will definitely start putting some incredible extra strength into Aeon Bide and other projects. We got some great guests coming on next month, including Duncan Trussell, Chris Knowles, Amanda Radcliffe will be joining us to talk about the Cathars, the return of the Cathars. And we'll also be having a Kung Fu master who has been influenced by the path of Gnosticism, and other great shows coming. So stick around, and thank you for supporting this Red Pill Cafeteria. Really appreciate it. And of course, I should mention that we are on Rockfin or Odyssey. I believe Raw was talking, when are we going to stream these live on Rockfin? I'm trying to get something exclusive for Rockfin as it's been growing. I've gone from like 500 subscribers to 6,000 in about a month or so, and Rockfin is exploding. There's even rumor that Alex Jones might have his exclusive podcasts on Rockfin, which would be a huge explosion. I don't know if there's rumors, but I don't really watch Alex Jones. But again, his presence to bring up a brand and get more traffic to a place that doesn't censor it wouldn't be bad as far as I'm concerned. Other than that, yes, I talked about the Finding Hermes program, where I give exclusive shows or presentations on the Gnostic ritual and a lot of astrotheology there. And I think, let me look at my notes. Any notes are voice, thunder, yada, 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 next shows. Yeah, that's it. And of course, as always, please support your independent podcasters. Beyond Aeon Byte, there are lots of choices. Stop supporting legacy media and other agents of misinformation. The more choices we have, the better it's going to be. And of course, if I'm not the only game in town that does Gnosticism, you've got Earl with the Secret History of Western Esotericism. You've got the guys at Talk Gnosis who put out some good shows. You've got Mo Bernard putting Gnostic Warrior. And very often, Gordon does a great job at trying to understand the Gnostics in Rune Soup. So there is a lot out there, and I'm sure I'm missing others, the Modern Hermeticists and plenty of others. But yeah, please support Aeon Byte, and please support the alternative media. As I mentioned, this is the end of the Faustian age. This is the Kali Yuga. So things are going to change, and I hope they change for the better as consciousness is transformed. So here we are, and we've got Micah Dank's Book of Enoch slide, but it looks like maybe the Spanish Inquisition did get to him.
It must be the witnesses, that must got him out there with the pamphlets and so forth.
The Jehovah.
Right. Yahweh's witnesses.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, any questions for the audience? Something general, Gnosticism or something like that?
Yeah, type them in now if you got them. They're talking about streaming and so forth at the moment, generally.
Yeah, I'm looking at the thing. Yes, I know. Anon, he says, I hope he has a fair trial. Danny Giles, it's the JWs for sure. Yes, for those of you who are listening or will be listening in audio, Micah Dank went to the front door, and all we have is like an empty, dark space. Kind of like that movie Scream or something. We could do it.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, was that the Inquisition, Jehovah Witnesses, or just your Amazon delivery?
It was Amazon. It was a big box.
All right. A big box of stars, we hope.
It's a Trojan horse.
There you go.
So we see the Book of Enoch?
We do see the Book of Enoch.
You're going to tell an Enoch knock joke first?
Chapter 2:1. Observe ye everything that takes place in the heaven, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in the heaven, how they all rise and set in order in its season, and transgress not against their appointed order. Chapter 8:2. Simjaza taught enchantments. Armoros the resolving of enchantments. Barakiel taught astrology. Kokabel the constellations. Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds. Sariel the course of the moon. So here you see how they're openly talking about astrology, whereas
these are angels,
right?
Or archons.
You notice they all end in L, basically.
Mm-hmm.
El,
like God, yeah, Hebrew for like God or like El.
Except for Amoros there, he's in Semyaza.
Yeah, I said almost all of them. 14:11. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightning, and between them was a fiery cherubim, and the heaven was as clear as water. This could mean the sign Aquarius or Pisces, as they are the water signs, in quotes. Mm-hmm. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. The sun has entered either Aquarius or Pisces. As those are the winter months, the sun is both hot and in the middle of winter, so both cold as ice. Make sense?
Makes sense.
14:15. And I beheld a vision. And lo, there was a second house greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me. And it was built of flames of fire. And in every respect it so excelled in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and extent. And its floor was of fire, and above it were lightnings of the path of the stars, and its ceiling was also flaming fire. And I looked there and saw a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, and the wheels therefore as the shining sun. So the sun is in its kingdom, Leo, like I mentioned before, when I said that Leo is ruled by the sun, the dead of summer. The sun is the ruling planet of Leo, so that's home. Also, before now, we know that they were talking about Aquarius, not Pisces, because Leo and Aquarius are opposing signs. And the most important signs when referencing a sign are its neighboring sign and its cross sign. 17:2, and they brought me to the place of darkness and to a mountain, the point whose summit reached to heaven. They're talking about darkness, which is correlated to winter. So it's one of the winter months. And I saw the place of the luminaries and the treasures of the star and the thunder, and in the uttermost depth were a fiery bow and arrow in their quiver. That's the man with the arrow and the quiver. That's Sagittarius. Okay, so Sagittarius is the winter. So you see how that was set up?
Mm-hmm.
And they took me to the living waters and to the fire of the west. The west. Aquarius and Pisces are on the left side of the zodiac, therefore the west. The sun is now back to the water sign. And I saw the cornerstone of earth. I saw the four winds which bear the earth and the firmament of heaven. The four winds are the cross that the entire zodiac has. It's the solstices and the equinox. Connecting them, it forms a perfect cross. And I saw how the wind stretched out the vaults of heaven. I saw the winds of heaven which turn and bring circumference of the sun and all the stars to their setting. So they're just openly talking about astrology in the Book of Enoch, which is why I believe it was removed from the Bible, even though it's still in the Ethiopian Bible. I believe it was removed from the Bible because all the astrology was hidden from everyone unless you knew the code. Whereas here, they're openly talking about it. Like, for example, I saw their 7 stars, like great burning mountains, and to me, which I inquired regarding them. You guys heard of the Pleiades, right?
No.
They're known as the 7 sisters. Okay, those are the 7 stars. Anytime they mention 7 stars, it's referencing the Pleiades. You got to understand, we know that there's 88 constellations in our neck of the woods. That includes the 12 zodiac signs. Back when the Bible was written, back when these were written, they knew about 48 of them, not 88. So the 48 that they knew about, they were talking about. So there's going to be some that are missing that you're like, what about this one? Well, they didn't know about it yet. 21:3 again, and there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound together, like great mountains and burning with fire. Well, that's what stars do; they burn with fire. And the 7 sisters are the Pleiades. 46:1, and there I saw one who had a head of days, and his head was white like wool. That's sheep, Aries. And with him was another being whose countenance had the appearance of man. 46:3. This is the Son of Man who hath righteousness. The Son of Man is Aquarius. 48:1, and in that place I saw the fountain of righteousness. Now the fountain is, as I mentioned, Aquarius, and all the thirsty drank of them, and they were filled with wisdom. And at that hour the Son of Man was named, again Aquarius. This passage is just talking about Aquarius. For wisdom is poured out like water, just like the man with the pitcher pouring out the water. That's Aquarius. And he shall judge the secret things. That's Libra, the scales of justice, the judgment, the judging. Mm-hmm. And in those days, the mountains leap like rams. That's Aries. And the hills shall also skip like lambs. That's Aries, satisfied with milk. That's the Milky Way galaxy. 56:5. That they may break forth as lions from their lairs. That's Leo. And hungry wolves among their flocks. That's the constellation Lupus. 56:7. But the city of my righteousness shall be a hindrance to their horses. Sagittarius. 59:1. In those days mine eyes saw the secrets of the lightnings and of the light and the judgments they execute. That's Libra the judge. And on that day were 2 monsters parted. A female monster named Leviathan, and we mentioned Leviathan in the book of Job before. Okay, so that's Pisces, to dwell in the abyss of the ocean over the fountains of water. Talking about Pisces, the 2 fish, the 2 water monsters, and Aquarius, the fountains of water. 65:6. They have learnt all the secrets of the angels and all the violence of the Satans. So in Hebrew, the word Satan is Hashatan. And Hashatan means adversary. It does not mean Satan. It does not mean a little red guy with a pitchfork that rules over hell. In fact, the earliest depictions of Satan back 1,000 years ago, when they first started drawing him, he was blue. He wasn't even red. But yeah, so 2 basketball teams playing each other are Satans. 2 UFC fighters are Satans to one another. That's what Satan means. 6920.
He joined the Blue Man Group. Just kidding. I'm determined to make worse jokes than Vance tonight.
Come on. Now I'm going to really have to work.
6920. And through the oath, the sun and the moon complete their course, and deviate not from the ordinance from eternity to eternity. And through the oath, the stars complete their course. And he calls them by their names, and they answer to him from eternity to eternity. And in like manner, the spirits of the water and of the winds and of the zephyrs and of the pass of the quarter to the winds. They're basically just telling you, they're telling me the alignments and everything. So this is the book of the courses of the heavenly luminaries. This one is cool. Okay, 72:3. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises and 6 portals in which the sun sets. The sun sits in each sign for 2 hours a day, making 12 signs times 2 equals our 24-hour day. 72:14. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened to become 6 parts. They're talking about the summer solstice, June 21st, the longest day of the year. That's all it is. 72:20. On that day, the day is equalized with the night and becomes equal length. That's the equinoxes. It makes sense. 72:26. These are all in order, by the way. And on that day, the night becomes longer and amounts to double of the day. That's the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, December 21st. 82:19. And the sheep pair become pregnant, and all the fruits of the earth are gathered in, and everything that is in the fields and the winepress. These things take place in the day of his dominion. The sheep represent Aries, and its cross sign, very important, is Libra, the wine season, hence the wine press. And 87:4, and one said unto me, remain here till thou seest everything that befalls those elephants, camels, and asses, and the stars and the oxen, and all of them. The elephant nebula is in Cephas. Camelopardalis borders Cephas. Salus borealis, or the northern donkey, Boots is the ox constellation. 89:12, but that bull, Taurus, which was born from him, begat a wild black boar, the Andromeda constellation, or boar, and a white sheep, Aries. And thereafter, those 3 who were clothed in white had seized me by my hand, who had taken me up before, and the hand of the ram, Aries, also seizing hold of me. They took me up and set me down in the midst of those sheep, Aries, before the judgments took place, Libra, opposing signs. 96:05:06. Woe to you who devour the finest of wheat, that's Virgo, and drink wine in the largest bowls, Libra. Those are connecting signs. Woe to you who drink water from every fountain, Aquarius, going in the sun's path order of the zodiac. The last words. And the sinners shall cry aloud and see them resplendent, and they indeed will go where days and seasons are prescribed for them. That's the zodiac and the constellations. So you see how Enoch is nothing more different than basically the other ones too?
It is
I can
indeed,
see the
yeah.
connections, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It must be that in those days, the people, you know the references in the Book of Job where can you do this, can you do that, can you make the courses of this go through the sky? They must have thought about God controlling all these things, and that they were in awe of the sky and the connections and the patterns and the cycles. And to them, this was spirituality. This was God, and why to worship God, because God's power made it all happen. I think that's what must have. That's the connection. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you would agree, right, that there is astrology hidden in all these books, right? Like it'd be hard to argue against that.
Right.
So you guys still see my screen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, something is loading. Here, quick question. I saw this from Oaksmile, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but he was wondering, do you think the Book of Enoch gives credence to flat Earth or any of these texts, or do you think,
I don't get in. I personally don't get into flat Earth. I don't, because it's too divisive, and winning the argument one way or another doesn't really achieve anything.
No, and there's many ways to go about it. It's an endless rabbit hole.
So look, ready? You can admit that there's hidden astrology. Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. Yeah. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm readings, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums, all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. So the Catholic Church is openly telling you that it's evil.
Oh, yeah. Well, they admitted one thing, that it also says, predicting the future, you want to have power over your own life. They don't want that. They want to have the power over your life to tell you what to do.
Yeah. That's been happening for a long time.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Do you want to get out? I'm afraid if I get you out, I'll boot you. Last time I booted your share screen, and I rebooted you too, Micah. You want to hit share screen unless you want to share something else.
No, I'm done.
All right.
I've just done 4 different things, all in the same aspect, with the same code.
All right. Well, if you want to hit stop share screen, we can get back to all 3 of us. There you go. It's all of us there. Yeah, somebody had an interesting quote too, and I know this is sort of a side thing, and it was Tier. He said that Charles Manson was a Gnostic Christian. I'd love to hear more, but I do know that Charles Manson did revere Abraxas. That's pretty much documented in a few places. But as far as being a Gnostic, I think I'd like to hear more of these ideas and so forth. So, but interesting point brought up in the chat. And
what kind of Gnostic too, right? What kind of Gnostic was he?
Well, obviously the wacky kind.
It wasn't a Valentinian, I don't think.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions, or do you see any questions from the audience, Vance?
Oh, let's see. I was too fascinated by all the different parts of the presentation. I don't see any right now. Who is Sabaoth? There's a question.
First of all, I think I got it. Let's see if it works. Okay, do you guys see it? Remember I was talking about the billionaires going on in space and all that? I got this meme today somebody shared. Thanks, Dan, from Cosmic Keys podcast. He shared this meme of Jeff Bezos being the demiurge, and I think it makes sense. For those of you listening to audio, go to my Facebook or Twitter. I've got this very cool design of Jeff Bezos looking like Yaldabaoth, his head, body of a snake, and top of the world with, of course, the Matrix screen in the background. So perfect for these worlds. Again, I am so happy people are seeing through the bullshit of these celebrity CEOs and all these other elite that pretend they're taking us somewhere starry and somewhere good. So I thought I'd share that with the audience.
They're up there for 30 seconds, like it's just a statistical thing. Is it 50 miles? Is it 62 miles? 30 seconds. Wow, I was in space, but they're just sitting in a cabin.
And arguably, I think they were like 800 kilometers from outer space. They're still in one of the layers of the stratosphere. I forget what it is. So. Yeah,
I saw Chris Knowles had something about that. But they were technically in quote unquote space. It's over 50 miles. They weren't in outer space though. No, they weren't in orbit. To me, if they were in orbit, I would
love to send Bezos into orbit.
One-way ticket, huh?
They can't get there yet. They don't have enough snacks, Yeah,
and of all people, it was Tulsi Gabbard. She tweeted, "Please don't come back." I was like, "Man, you got some."
Really?
Yeah, she's got some cojones.
She's interesting. Awesome. I think she's got some. She's her own person. Maybe she's Gnostic.
We shall see. So, any question? I see Blackstone Koan. So the snake dude is the demiurge. Yes, again, it's a very interesting point that some Gnostics saw the serpent-headed dragon as bad, while other Gnostics saw the serpent as good. Obviously, as I mentioned, the picture we do see of Yaldabaoth, that ancient picture with the lion head and the star and the sun around him and the serpent, that's based on the tyrant Egyptian god Chernubis, who ruled over the Decans. That's part of astrotheology. So that's where they decided to get the image of Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, and use that for their own stuff. I guess they rebooted this Egyptian god as Yaldabaoth. So, any question? I have a question for you, Micah. So, you said you were going on a lot of podcasts. Are you going just basically to conspiracy, alternative spirituality
Yeah,
podcast?
name a podcast I've been on it. I've
Have
done.
you gone? Have you gone to like a mainstream Christian or Jewish podcast yet?
No, I haven't, and I do have a publicist that gets me work too. We're trying to pitch my book series to TV producers and movie producers to see if we could try and get it made. My 6-book deal. But as it is right now, it's just mostly the Twitterverse.
Yeah, just the podcasts out there, the alternative podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about
Because it'd be
Duncan Trussell
interesting.
Family Hour?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you need
they-
some visuals.
I've reached
for that,
out to Duncan. I think, didn't you say you didn't Duncan come on your show?
I went on his show. He's coming on mine in a few weeks.
Mention my info to him if you don't mind. If you can work it into a conversation.
Sure. I'll find out
That'd
what
be
he
killer
likes.
animation if they do another season of Midnight Gospel. You could have like the astrological signs and going through the skies. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great series. I love that season. Very cool stuff. And you're so it's a 6-book series, and it's doing very well. Critics like it. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah.
How did you get
go to
inspired?
Amazon. Unfortunately, you have to go to Amazon, or I sell books directly. From my
Speaking
house.
of,
Right. Yeah, just go to Amazon. The series is called Into the Rabbit Hole. The first book is called Beneath the Veil. Just read what people are saying about it. It's doing really well.
now, how did you get started with this series? What was the inspiration?
Just learning about astrotheology and realizing that nobody put it in a fictionized thriller Dan Brown type series before. So I wanted to do that.
And give us a summary. How does it get started? Who's the main character, or who are the guys that go down?
The main
rabbit?
character is Graham. And the first book talks a lot about MK Ultra, and it talks a lot about astrotheology. His brother is a deceased Marine. I wrote this in 2013. I wrote that he was a Marine in Syria.
Right.
He died under mysterious circumstances, whether it was suicide or homicide or war. They don't know. So he has to go to Washington, D.C. to get a medal from the president because they're being honored. And while he's there, he finds some like really disturbing stuff, and it sends him down like a deep, dark rabbit hole.
Cool. And so you have the bad guys are the sort of uber conspiracy bad guys, Catholic Church or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
or
the first two books destroy the Catholic Church.
Do you bring out anything supernatural, or is it just sort of a thriller?
No, there's a lot of supernatural stuff in it too.
Cool. Who would you say? What are some of your fiction influences, or who would you compare this book to? I mean, I've read the Da Vinci
Maybe
Code.
National Treasure, maybe the movie Bird Box, maybe The Bourne Identity, Da Vinci Code, things of that nature.
All right. The Da Vinci Code was, God, it was so poorly written. I'm amazed that he sold so well. One of the best-selling books in the history of humanity, but he definitely hit on some powerful nerves. The idea of Mary Magdalene, the church hiding a alternative Christianity, and all that. So it looks like your book is also doing the same thing. It's telling people, look, there's more than we've been taught. That we've had a veil over us, and the ancients. It's a lot different than the official narrative of everything.
That's right.
Awesome. Any questions from the audience, fans?
I've been looking, not so far, unless I missed them.
Are they enjoying this?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the way this works is they chat about different things, either related or side related, or somewhat related. So they just they all kind of have fun. And there's a great percentage of them that are. Yeah.
Well, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You know, you could follow me, friend me. If you want to get the signed books, I sell signed copies through me. If you don't want to go through Amazon, I sell them direct. And I have a group on Facebook called Micah Dank Into the Rabbit Hole, where I post all my interviews that I do. And I must have done like 170 in the last year, to be honest with you.
Good God. That's some good publicity, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's got to rock. Awesome. Well, in that case, looks like the audience is saying some good stuff in the chat room. They've enjoyed it. I think we've covered quite a lot in just a short time. A lot of food for thought. Do you think you'll ever write a nonfiction book on this, or do you think
No.
you're just going to stick
No,
with it?
if I'm going to write a fiction series, you get away with more if you write fiction.
That is true. And
what happened with 1984?
The what?
The book 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened with that. Look what happened with Brave New World. Look what happened with all this. You know, this is the way to do it. If you want to share information, it's like Oscar Wilde said: you got to make people laugh if you're going to tell them the truth.
They'll kill you.
Yeah. And I mean, our minds are made of stories that we react better to symbols and metaphors and being entertained. I mean, if you can tell somebody be good, they're not going to listen. But if you show them the story of Superman, that'll teach them far better than if I tell my kids be good. So you're right. It's really the way to do it. But it is fascinating information there. And of course, there are very good books out there. So awesome. Well, I guess then let us sign off to the stars. I don't think I have anything else to say except thank you very much for those of you who support, those in the chat room. Love your questions. Love reading your comments. Love everything about you. But Vance, thanks for keeping us company on this Wednesday, this Odin's Day, Wotan's Day.
Yes, always my pleasure. Thank you, Micah. Interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Very clear exposition.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Micah,
guys.
I always enjoy having you on the show. Look forward to our next time. And there's so much, I'm sure you're just getting started once we start spreading out to other religious books. I'm sure that we've only scratched the surface, but this is fun. Learning.
Next time I come on, we'll be in touch. Send me the link for this when it's up. And next time I'm up, we'll do the Enuma Elish. How about that?
Sure. I'm sure let's give it a crack. That's exciting too. I love it. All right. Well, Micah, as always, great to have you on. Good luck with everything. And for everybody else out there, don't reach for the stars, but like the ancient Gnostics, go even beyond the stars to the ground of being, because that is your birthright. So as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for being yourself, your true self here in the desert of the real. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.